Hello, today we're going to talk about Scrum and how to do Scrum in order. First, let's define Scrum. Scrum is a process framework usually used to develop software products. Scrum relies in cross-functional teams to develop and to deliver services and products in a cycle. So let's go and see how to do it in order. First, we need to create the Scrum project. To create a Scrum project in order is super simple. You just have to click on the plus on the top right corner and select New Project. Once you open the Create Project dialog, select Software, then select Scrum. Once you add a title and everything else you need, click on Create. Now that you have created your first Scrum project, you will have two different views to switch from, the backlog and the sprint. When you open your project, you should land on the backlog view. The backlog view will contain all the future tasks you will add. First, create some stories in the backlog. You can then drag and drop the cards to move them from one list to another or sort them within the same list, depending on their priority. Inside a task, you can add participants and all the necessary details, like when exactly is expected for this task to be finished. Let's go with the third step. The third step is to create a sprint. But what is a sprint? A sprint is a repeatable work cycle, at the end of which increments will be delivered. Sprints have consistent durations throughout a development effort. A new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint. In most cases, the duration of the sprint is 1, 2, or even 4 weeks. On this step, make sure to select an output list for all the tasks or stories completed during the sprint. Let's go with the next step, the sprint planning meeting. In this meeting, you should gather all your team together and discuss which stories of the backlog are going to be prioritized and what is the goal of the sprint. Add story point estimates to your tasks by adding a number in the effort estimate in story points field and the business value estimate. Story points rate the relative effort of work in a Fibonacci-like format. When you're ready with the estimation and task prioritization, add the tasks agreed with your team into the sprint that you have created. The next step is to actually start the sprint. Before you start the sprint, make sure that the right amount of work is added to the sprint. Not too little and not too much. If this is your first sprint, your team will not be able to know what their velocity is. But for any next sprint, you will know your velocity and whether you exceeded or you did not. Also, make sure all cards are estimated. Once the sprint starts, the points of the sprint which represent your commitment won't change when you add or remove cards. Next step is to do the daily stand-up meetings. After your sprint has started, you need to hold meetings with your team daily for about 15 minutes to see who is working on what. The purpose of this meeting is to see if anyone on your team is experiencing any roadblocks towards the completion of the sprint tasks. The meeting should be not more than 15 minutes, and preferably everyone should be standing. Each team member should reply to these questions. What work did I complete yesterday? What work will I do today? Do I have anything blocking my tasks? The next step is to track the burnout chart. The burnout chart shows the estimated and the actual work completed within the sprint. The burnout chart is automatically updated as you complete work items. To view this chart, click on the reports icon on the top right side in the sprint. A mini version of it is also visible in the project sidebar. The next step is to hold the sprint review meeting. The sprint review meeting is to check what is the amount of work that was delivered during the sprint. Typically, this takes a form of a demo of the new features. The sprint review meeting should be informal and allowing no more than 2 hours of preparation of time for the meeting. During the sprint review, the project is assessed against the sprint goal determined during the sprint planning meeting. The next step is to actually finish the sprint. Congratulations, you did it. Just click on Finish. All completed cards will go into your selected Done list. And for all of the cards that are not finished, you will be prompted. And then you can choose whether they go to a next sprint or to a list inside your project. The next step is to hold the sprint retrospective meeting. The goal of this meeting is to gather your entire team and review what happened during the sprint, what went good, what went wrong, and a plan for improvements for the next sprint. The purpose of this meeting is to review processes, tools, and team interaction during the sprint. This meeting occurs after the sprint review meeting and prior to the next sprint planning. For this meeting, the entire Scrum team should gather for maximum 3 hours. During this meeting, the team discusses what went well in the sprint, what could be improved, what will we commit to improve for the next sprint. So this is it. You have finished. For next sprints, you can just repeat the steps and stay productive.